Hi everyone. Today I want to talk to you about a concept that affects every student, often without them realizing it. It's something called the forgetting curve.
Have you ever studied for hours, felt pretty good about the material, but then 2 or 3 days later, it's like your brain has hit reset button? That frustrating feeling has a name, and it's actually completely normal. It's called the forgetting curve, and understanding how it works can completely change the way you study.
So, what is the forgetting curve? It was first described by the German psychologist named Hermann Ebbinghaus in the late 1800s. He was one of the first people to study memory scientifically, and he found something really surprising. Right after we learn something new, our ability to remember it drops off very quickly unless we make an effort to retain it. On average, within 1 hour, people forget about 50% of newly learned information. Within 24 hours, they forget up to 70%. And after a week, that number can reach 90%, unless there's review. Ebbinghaus graphed this as a steep downward curve, hence the name the forgetting curve.
So, why is this important for you as a student? Understanding the forgetting curve is a game changer. Most students make the mistake of cramming. Cramming might help you remember something for a short time, maybe enough to pass a quiz, but you'll likely forget it soon after. That's especially a problem for classes where the material builds on itself or shows up again in a final exam or a real world application. So, how do you fight against the forgetting curve?
So, you don't actually need to study harder, you need to study smarter. Let's talk about two strategies that can help. The first one is called space repetition. This strategy is based on timing. So instead of reviewing the material once and forgetting it, you review it several times, each time just before you're likely to forget it. So this idea is to space out your reviews, increasing the time between each one as the information becomes stronger in your memory. So let's say you learn a concept on Monday. You want to review it on Tuesday, then again on Friday, then again the next week, and then again 2 weeks later. Each time you review it, the forgetting curve flattens and the memory becomes stronger and long lasting. There are even apps that use this principle automatically, such as Anki or Quizlet, with spaced repetition features.
Second one is active recall, which means actively trying to bring information to mind without looking at your notes. Instead of passively rereading or highlighting, which feels good but doesn't help much, you test yourself. That might mean making flashcards and flipping them over, covering your notes and trying to explain a concept out loud, answering practice questions without looking at the answers, or teaching the material to someone else. Why does this work? Because the act of retrieving the information is what actually strengthens your memory. Every time you do it, the brain marks that info as important.
So let's take an example. You're in a psychology class and you just learned about Pavlov's experiments on classical conditioning. If you just read about it once and move on, you'll likely forget it within a few days. But if you review it the next day with using flashcards, using the principle of active recall, the next day the next week you summarize the concept in your own words. The next week you answer a practice quiz on it, and you also teach it to a friend before the exam. You've now spaced it out and actively recalled it, so flattening the forgetting curve and building a strong, lasting memory.
The forgetting curve is not a sign of failure, it's just how the human memory works. But once you understand it, you can outsmart it. So here's a quick challenge for you. Think about something you've recently learned in class. Ask yourself, have I reviewed it since learning it? Could I explain it without looking at my notes? And do I have a plan to revisit it before my next exam? If not, that knowledge might be slipping away, and now you know what to do to bring it back. So let's start working with your brain and not against it. Use spaced repetition and active recall, and I promise you'll not only remember more, you'll retain it with way less stress.